Hi, I'm Mirka Knaster. I'm a fiber artist on the northernmost end of the Sonoma Coast in Northern California. And I'm delighted to be here and especially honored that my work was chosen to be in Broken and Repaired. I'm only sorry I can't be there to see it. This is really an interesting inspiration because I went I went to Poland, to my father's city. In English, we say Lodz, but in Polish, it's Łódź, because I wanted to make a connection with my father's family. And, nostalgia is for something, a longing for something in the past that you have positive associations with. But my nostalgia is for something I never even experienced because I never got to meet anyone in my father's family. And so I went to his city with the intention of at least walking where my relatives used to walk, where they used to live. And that's exactly what I did. I was able to amass a number of um, addresses. And in some cases, the buildings weren't even there anymore. In other cases, they were replaced by something else or they were very dilapidated, but at least I got to walk to where my grandmother had walked, my aunts and uncles, cousins. Anyway, I love maps. In fact, when I was a child, I was the navigator when my father drove. In those days, we didn't have GPS. So I decided, once I heard about this app called Map My Walk, I decided, okay, I'm going to map all my walks in my father's city. And that's exactly what I did with the intention of printing them up and then stitching my steps. Well, as so many artists know, you can have an image in your mind and then it just doesn't materialize the way you visualized it. So I had to pivot and do something different. And that's when I decided to print the photos of all these addresses, these locations, these buildings onto fabric and create a kind of album. I have an empty album, empty pages in an album, because I have no photos of my father's family. I have no idea what anybody looked like. And so I had to create a completely different kind of album. And that's why I created the accordion album with photos of these buildings. This is the closest I could ever come to my father's family. And I I decided that one side, the images would be where they had lived before World War II, and the other side would be during World War II, when everyone was in my father's family was imprisoned in a ghetto. And so there's side A and there's side B. And I walked all those streets. Um, Not that anything is the way it was. In fact, I remember one place, it was my grandmother's address, and it must have been also where my dad had lived at some point 100 years ago. So it was a very, it was a very touching experience for me, and I hope that other people are able to do something like that for themselves when they're missing a family that they could never know.
Thank you. That's such a very profound process that you've gone through.
It was challenging. Um, I was fortunate in having a friend with a certain kind of printer, and she could print up all these photos for me and I could work with them. Um, but emotionally, it was completely other story. It wasn't that easy. So, but I'm really glad that I went and I plan to go back because I have other aspects of my project that I want to create and that I have photos for and other things. So it's really an ongoing project. And I want to express my gratitude to you for inviting me because it was a way to compose one aspect of my larger project. You know, sometimes I think about people who have been adopted and they have no idea who their mother or father was. They have no photos. How do you create a family album? And that's what I tried to do was create a family album of a family that I could never know. One of the things that I've done, because I've lived in a lot of different places and traveled around the world, what I always do is walk. And it's a way for me to get the geography into my body. It's kind of a psychogeography or physiogeography that allows me to absorb the environment, to orient myself. And so that's why I decided that I would walk in my father's city, that it was just a way for me to incorporate into myself something that I had not experienced as a family member then. And so that's just what I like to do is walking. I'm very kinesthetically oriented. It's also the way I work, but it's very much the way I learn. It has to come through my body. If I just hear it, it often goes out the other side because I need to experience something in my body to really feel it, to really know it. This theme of broken and repaired, first of all, it's always timely, but right now there's so much brokenness. It's just unbelievable. And
Mm.
so that you selected that theme, I think, is very important.
Very beautiful. I'm so honored that you agreed to be part of this show. So thank you so very much for that.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.